My name is Seng Yang. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm also the director of Paj Ntaub, The Rose Cloth, and CEO of Toj Siab Entertainment. Ida Paj Ntaub na. Paj Ntaub is something that is authentic Hmong. It is a quilt. And not just a quilt, but it is a story quilt where it holds a story or some form of pictorial message that is true to the Hmong culture, whether it's fictional or like a historic documentation of some sort. It's all woven and sewn into this sometimes massive blanket or a quilt. It's very beautiful.
Oh,
Paj Ntaub is a Hmong-American film about two best friends who falls in love with a woman, nameless, and they go through this adventure and this transition through this world that is made up of parallel universes. Also translates into dreams. It may seem complicated, but it's really not that. It's not that technical. More philosophical, because then you get, then you accept the idea of magic, customs, cultural beliefs, and things like that. So it's more of a fantasy as opposed to science fiction. That's the idea that we're trying to go for as well. So these three characters, you have the lead, his name is Ntaub. He calls himself X, and I'll explain to you what that really means here in a minute. His best friend, his name is Tu or Tu. The woman that these two characters fall in love with, she doesn't have a name, and we don't get to find out her name. We do in the end, but it really isn't that significant. Tu, he is the comical relief. He is many things. He in this story, he symbolizes the vessel in the story. He is what brings Ntaub through his journey and his own. He is the student, then the teacher. He is the villain, and also the companion. There are many versions of Tu, just as many as there is of Ntaub and of Nameless. And so you have to understand that these characters are very dynamic. But in the story of Paj Ntaub, there are two distinctive characters, of two distinctive versions of Tu, and there is Tu, the best friend, and there is evil Tu, which is the villain, the one that's always coming and always attacking Ntaub in his dreams. And that version of Tu is his alter ego. Tu brings a lot of things into the story. He is uplifting. He motivates Ntaub, and in his own way always has the answer for Ntaub. This is the toughest character to describe, and she is nameless because we wanted her to be as vague and more like a blur, or just the idea of beauty, or the idea of desire and wanting and love and compassion. Because how do you describe an angel? I mean, she falls from heaven. You can't say, well, hey, this angel is so and so. Now, evil Tu comes in and out of the picture. Now, evil Tu, he's one dimension. But there's multiple versions of him. Sometimes he's evil, sometimes he's good. Sometimes he's intentionally evil. Sometimes he's unaware that he's doing evil. And during one of the pinnacle points in the story, Du is actually this not so much different than the Du that exists in Do's reality. Du is actually his companion as well, but for some reason, Du is just always the one taking the girl. So during the first act, you experience the dream phase of Do's life, and you see the story transpire, and the story begins. These two characters are in love, and they're not just in love, but then they meet again over and over and over again, and then the stories kind of plays out as, okay, these are the good times and these are the bad times, and throughout the hardships in their lifetimes together, you get the idea that, you know what, maybe time doesn't really play a factor in it, because, well, how is it that, well, this person is able to exist in this time period and also exist in this time period? Or it's kind of weird because, well, Hmong people didn't do this, or is this person even Hmong? Or did this person just conceptualize himself as a Hmong? Or perhaps in his lifetime, is he even Hmong? Is he even Asian? Or does Asian even exist? So all these questions kind of erupt. The dust kind of settles in, and all the dreams are over, and we're in a setting that we acknowledge as reality. Do states it. He says, "Oh, well, you know what? When I wake up, you know, it's just me, and this is my reality, or this is what I accept as my reality." And so it's very real. There's no mask that he has, and he wakes up every day, he goes to work, he does his routine, he goes to the gym, he does what every normal person do. As a good friend, he wants to help Du, and he wants to give him the best advice as possible and encourage him throughout his uncertain times. And so Do encourages and pushes and motivates and inspires his best friend, because not only is that what a best friend does, but as a loving and giving and just a cool ass dude, he wants to uplift his friend so that he can also have the good life. Now, all his dreams are going wrong, and things are just going downhill. He can't sleep at night. He's losing sleep. His dreams are not great anymore. The girl of his dreams, he's just starting to lose her. It's funny because the transition between the two characters, yes, Du is growing and he does mature and becomes this confident character with the assistance of Do, but along the way, during his journey to becoming this strong figure, he brings Do and uplifts him and says, "Hey, you know what? You're having a hard time. Hey, let me help you." Or, "Hey, I've got this doctor that I can refer you to." Or, "Hey, we can go look for the psychiatrist who's familiar in what you're going through right now. And hey, I got this grandpa who speaks with the spiritual realm." Our interpretation of what is Idai Pando is, it's as well as a pictorial quilt. Once the shaman had brought it out, if you noticed, it was something very simple, something that it could have easily have been overlooked, something that is just nonchalantly placed, or anybody could have made it, a commoner, a peasant. The idea that we wanted to tie into our version of the rose cloth is we wanted something rich, something mythical, something powerful that can mean something greater, that will bring much massiveness and richness into an ordinary quilt. And I believe that even in what is known today as Idai Pandona, there is richness behind that. There is a lineage of history as well as deep meaning, such as emotional ties, going back to what Do's name is. He has a real name, which is Ntaub, but he reintroduces himself as X. And what we know in math, X is a variable. X can be anything. X equals question mark. And so how this story unfolds in the end is that X could be anybody. He's also nameless. Just like the woman that he falls in love with. She's nameless. So it only makes sense for these two nameless people to be together, or to be aligned in this massive universe, and to find each other in the end. In the end, when there is no more space-time that exists, or even if space-time continues to infinity, these two characters will always be together. And so we would like the story to go beyond the credits and to go beyond the 2.5 hour of what is known as Paj Ntaub, the movie, but that is the idea behind X's character and Nameless.